Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Keith Moore, and I'm CEO of KDM and Associates and founder of Open Government TV, author of the book Stepping in the Ring, and co-founder of the Innovation in Agriculture Energy Opportunity Zone Summit, a 5-year initiative. Welcome to episode 2 of What Works Solution webinar series. We're happy to have those who've joined us in previous times at the summit, and happy for those who have just joined us for the first time. What Works in STEM started with the idea that has now morphed into a commitment, a 5-year commitment, to examine through a series of questions with a unique focus on the questions that simply ask, where's your faith? Where's your faith in HBCUs? Knowing that the creators of these universities, these great educational historical institutions, were rooted in the church, the fiscal challenges and the documented and well-known throughout history, universities of HBCUs, minority serving institutions, and Hispanic serving institutions have faced financial challenges from the beginning of their time. Today, we're going to not focus on that. We're going to focus on the opportunities. The opportunities thanks to a tax policy called the 2017 Tax Job Act Credit Program. And we will hear from experts who will tell you how this opportunity zone connects to the future of revitalization of our distressed communities. And we're so happy to have, once again, returning Emily Lavery from Senator Tim Scott's office, who really is often the face and the voice of understanding the benefits of the Opportunity Zone. We also are very thankful to have J.R. Baggerty from the MBDA, National Business Development Agency, who is coming in to speak on behalf of the outgoing National Director for the Minority Business Development Agency, Mr. David Byrd. David Byrd, if you recall, for those who were at our Innovation in Agriculture Summit in October, as well as the Director, James Campos, who you will hear today, were both presenters at our Innovation in Agriculture Summit in October. I'll allow them both to give their backgrounds, and I would say good morning to you both. And then I will start with a little bit more of the background that I will allow you, the audience, to fully understand not only why you're here, but what you can look forward to, and especially leave from this discussion that we have for the next 55 minutes. Emily, good morning, and thank you for being, once again, our special valued guest.
Definitely. No, thank you so much for having me on, Keith. This is always such an awesome experience for me to be able to touch base with y'all and share just a little bit more about what we're doing in the Opportunity Zone space. For those that don't know me, I'm Emily Lavery. I serve for Senator Tim Scott as his legislative assistant. I cover everything in the Senate Finance portfolio, which is a committee he serves on. So I cover everything for tax and trade. Of course, the Opportunity Zones incentive, which Senator Scott introduced and passed into law in 2017, falls into that tax space. So ever since it was passed into law, we have been laser focused on implementation. It has been absolutely incredible what we've seen in just a few short years. You know, the report this summer from the White House highlighted roughly $75 billion in private capital flowing into our low-income communities in just the first 2 years of the inception of this incentive. Beyond that, and of course, in lieu of reporting legislation, which we do not currently have in place, we're able to see incredible anecdotal evidence every day. And I think that really a lot of the recent stories touch in on the two themes of today, agriculture and energy and innovation, so well. Hampton County, South Carolina will be home to a new agri-tech campus, which is focusing on innovation in agriculture, creating 1,500 permanent jobs, all because of opportunity zones. So excited to share a little bit more about that as this presentation goes on. And of course, I can ensure that everybody can reach me. So Keith, if you want to share my contact information with anybody, feel free. We're here to be a resource for y'all and be helpful. And again, just thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you very much. That was Emily Lavery from Senator Tim Scott's office, leading the Opportunity Zone legislation. JR, please give the appropriate, honorable representation of a little bit of your background of your boss, one who I've known for years in terms of his public service. That's the National Director, David Byrd. JR, thank you so much for representing his absence.
Good. Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Keith. And I'm just on behalf of David Byrd, I just wanted to, apologize. David wasn't able to be with us. He's in the last couple of days of his tenure, and he's being pulled in a lot of different directions. So late last night, I got an email. I didn't even catch it until this morning. He said, "Hey, can you step in for me? I'm swamped." And I said, "Sure, David." But David came to MBDA in June 2020. He was the 18th National Director. He has been a career federal servant with over 28 years. Prior to coming to MBDA, he was served as the Deputy Assistant Secretary in the Office of Policy Development at U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And David's just a great guy, entrepreneur, and he gets it. He thinks outside the box, and so we're going to miss him. So this what we're doing here with KDM Associates and the Department of Energy. We signed an MOU earlier this year, and just really, really happy to have that MOU signed and to work with Director Campos and the DOE Office of Economic Impact and Diversity. And a lot of what they do aligns with our agency in terms of, business education and economic development in underserved markets. And then, of course, connecting the HBCUs and minority serving institutions and along with federal agencies. All together with energy workforce development. It's a really novel project that we're trying to do here. So we see a lot of opportunities within this project. Obviously, the opportunity zone is the catalyst which can attract investment capital to fund projects within these opportunity zones in these underserved markets, which of course will create jobs and propel economic development in these areas. So we're looking forward to just building out this platform and also seeing what opportunities there may be in the agriculture space for Black and brown minority farmers. We're seeing a lot of potential in this, and we're working with KDM Associates on a number of different projects. So thank you, and I'll just leave it right there. Thanks a lot, and it's a pleasure to be here. Oh, just real quick, my background is in finance. I'm sorry. My background is in finance and banking. I have over 30 years in finance and banking. I've been a loan officer in domestic and international. So I'm in a good space right now. Thank you.
JR, thank you so much. And I want the audience to be able to write this down, www.IAEOZsummit.com. And so as we continue, I want the audience to fully appreciate the continuing discussion. And that discussion started again in October 18th and 19th at the summit, where we declared a commitment for 5 years to do a study on what works for HBCUs located in opportunity zones. Those HBCUs do include minority serving institutions. They include Hispanic serving institutions. And as founder of Open Government TV, we are shedding the media light on the discussion. So Emily, I really appreciated the fact of our discussions in previous times of how in the writing of the legislation, it wasn't HBCUs weren't thought about first, but maybe you could shed some light on how important it is now that we are shedding the light that may not have shined so brightly in terms of the importance of HBCUs as an educational institution, engaging investors and developers so that they can utilize the financial resources that can revitalize the campuses, modernize the campuses, and include financial capacities that JR is so affectionately involved in his own background as a banker in his previous time before MBDA.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you for that question, Keith. As you know, I love engaging with you on this topic in such specificity because I think it's so important. As I think everybody knows, Senator Scott is a huge champion for our nation's HBCUs. And perhaps a lesser known fact is roughly 50% of our nation's HBCUs are actually located in opportunity zones. So that's just an incredible geographic overlap to begin with. Beyond that, what we've seen in the last few years, more broadly within the incentive itself in terms of the uptake, we've seen such diversity in terms of assets, fund managers, structures, and a lot of innovation, which I think is to be expected. But candidly, I think we were even surprised at just how diverse some of these projects have really become. And one space that I think has been really incredible in terms of the uptake has been the focus on HBCUs. So we know that there's funds like the Renaissance Fund that are specifically focused on investing into opportunity zone projects that relate back to our nation's HBCUs. Another great example is down in Alabama, where a hotel formed a partnership with an HBCU to allow the HRTM program within the HBCU to access that new facility, provide a pipeline for students, provide managerial and professional expertise and experience while those students are still in college, and really preparing them to come out into the real world, hitting the ground running. A really recent one that's actually taking place in Van Jones's hometown in Tennessee is a collaboration between a school in Arizona and an HBCU in Tennessee, where they will be converting what is currently a vacant gas station into an innovation and collaboration and co-working space, which will be providing what you would typically see at really large private universities in terms of resources to a much smaller college in a relatively rural area of Tennessee, which again is just going to provide such fantastic resources for innovation, job training, skills building, and really connectivity in a new and exciting way. And that's all being made possible because of opportunity zones. So it's exactly that type of uptake that we've been loving to see. Some additional, I think, examples in the education space that we've been seeing more and more is the ability to create and provide student housing through opportunity zones. So that's something that we've seen at UNC Pembroke and up north in Susan Collins' home state, which my boss recently toured actually this fall. So needless to say, I think that the potential here for HBCUs to benefit is relatively limitless. And it's been really exciting to see what's happening so far. So we're hoping to continue seeing more of that kind of activity here in the next few years. And again, anything that we can do to be helpful, answer questions, please let me know. And hopefully we'll have some more good news to share shortly.
Emily, thank you for recognizing, obviously, not only the generic importance, but the percentage of 50%. That's almost like the percentage that I remember. 40% of all opportunity zones are located in rural America. We're now going to provide you a pre-recorded video of Director James Campos. He too is an outgoing director that will be leaving as of, I guess, tomorrow. And he could not be here because, appropriately so, in terms of the theme of this webinar, the Department of Energy is celebrating his birthday. And I believe that we all can agree that this discussion is representative of what Dr. King would say when he says that he has a dream. We have a dream as well. We want to keep hope alive, and we want to work towards that goal of equality. And so it is my pleasure to introduce you to James Campos through a recording. And one of the programs that we truly embraced was one that I would never think would come out of the Department of Energy just by the nature of its 17 federal labs and its pretty, STEM focused history, that they have a program called Equity in Energy. You'll learn a little bit more about that Equity in Energy program, but I think we will be taking it to the next step when we talk about getting workforce from the prison reentry programs, working with distressed communities, working with the federal labs, working with STEM in a more intense way, where students from all walks of life, in particularly the distressed community, that kind of education. So Mel, if we are ready, without further ado, let's hear from Director Campbell.
I would like to thank you for inviting me to speak at the What Works Solution Series as a part of the 5-year Innovation in Agriculture and Energy Opportunity Zone Summit today. It's an honor for me to talk about the important work we are doing at the Department of Energy's Office of Economic Impact and Diversity. Now, I'd like to talk to you a little about my office that I serve as director for. ED's mission is broad and diverse, with a number of programs and initiatives that focus on meeting its statutory obligations and on enhancing the value of DOE's mission. ED's programs and initiatives are focused on businesses and education, which establish critical linkages among minority-serving institutions, minority businesses, minority-serving organizations, and federal agencies to address economic development in underserved communities and energy workforce development. ED's programs and initiatives are focused on civil rights, equity, and inclusion, which serves DOE's internal and external stakeholders. Now, I currently represent the DOE's enterprise on the following White House priorities: the White House Council on Eliminating Regulatory Barriers to Affordable Housing, the White House Council Opportunity and Realization Council, the White House Hispanics and Excellence Education Initiative, the White House Council on Asian American Pacific Islanders, and the White House Initiative to Promote Excellence and Innovation at Historically Black Colleges and Universities. And also, we support the Federal Interagency Council on Crime Prevention and Improving Reentry and Hispanic Prosperity. The Office of ED is represented in the working group on the USDA-DOE Memorandum of Understanding and the White House Office of Science, Technology, Innovation Ecosystem Policy Coordination Committee with Minority Business Development Agency, MBDA. Regarding Equity in Energy, it's a program we are very proud of. We recently launched the Equity in Energy Initiative to support the nation's energy goals by fostering entrepreneurship, innovation, and workforce partnerships. Equity in Energy focuses on the importance of increasing interest, access, and awareness to the energy economy for individuals in underserved communities. We call it AIA, Awareness, Interest, Access. Correct. It expands the inclusion and participation of individuals in underserved communities in all the programs of the Department of Energy and in the private energy sector, from women and minorities to veterans and the formerly incarcerated. Now, Equity in Energy is working to secure America's national security and energy dominance through maximizing and engaging all human capital to ensure America's independence for generations to come. The core pillars of this initiative are: 1, workforce development; 2, STEM enhancement; 3, supply diversity; 4, technical assistance; 5, energy affordability; 6, energy innovation and alternative fuels; and finally, in the last, 7, national labs. Additionally, it focuses on technology and artificial intelligence and biotechnology, entrepreneurship, workforce readiness for formerly incarcerated persons, opportunity zones, renewables, smart cities, and microgrids. We focus on engaging minority-serving institutions throughout the country and Puerto Rico, including historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs, and HSIs, Hispanic-serving institutions, and tribal colleges and universities. We represent the DOE on the White House initiative to expand opportunities for HBCUs and make sure we are weaving them all in throughout the federal priorities. Now, recently we hosted a webinar for the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities focusing on funding, joint research, and student opportunities for engagement. And we have hosted numerous pillar engagement meetings with our ambassadors to encourage greater support for these great institutions. In the past few years, the Office of Economic Impact and Diversity provided financial support to the following HBCUs: Morehouse College, Tullahoo College, Thurgood Marshall College Fund, Hampton University, Texas Southern University, Fort Valley State University. And in 2019, the National Nuclear Security Administration issued its second minority serving institution funding opportunity announcement, which resulted in 4 new consortia, 2 of which are led by HBCUs. The new awards resulted in the addition of 4 new HBCU partners: Howard University, Morgan State University, Prairie View A&M University as the lead, and University of District of Columbia as a co-lead. In FY19, the Minority Serving Institutions Partnership Program grew to include a total of 20 HBCU partners. The 2 new HBCU consortia are the Additive Manufacturing Post-Processing Partnership, AMP3, Energy Sciences, Experimental and Modeling. Our office has also launched a minority education, workforce, and training program, which provided funding to 3 HBCUs to include Florida A&M University, Southern University A&M, Elizabeth City State University. Now, the Opportunity Zone initiative created by the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was designed to spur economic development and job creation by encouraging long-term investment in low-income communities nationwide. We understand it takes a holistic approach to create a meaningful economic realization, and we need both private investment and public sector commitment to opportunity zones in order for it to truly work. That's why we are proud to represent the DOE on the interagency group dedicated to expanding our grant offerings and establishing program factors within opportunity zones in target investment areas. CEA released their initial assessment of opportunity zones, and the numbers are staggering and heartwarming. $75 billion invested, 500,000 new jobs, 11 billion in property value increase, and on track to list 1 million people out of poverty. This is astonishing. Through the efforts of the Office of Economic Impact and Diversity, DOE can provide advantages to entities or individuals seeking financial assistance to do business in opportunity zones if their applications are otherwise notorious. In addition, grants.gov can be searched now to determine whether there are any opportunity zone benefits and funding opportunity announcements. Our office recently issued 10 grants under the Minority Education and Workforce Training Program, totaling almost $4 million, which we serve over 60 opportunity zones, $2 million for the Workforce Division alone. These financial awards focus on workforce development, technical assistance, capacity building, and STEM education and training. And they serve, again, over 60 opportunity zones. There are many MSIs located in opportunity zones, and our hope, our true hope, is that these combined efforts will maximize the ROI of these funding opportunities to achieve a real, sustainable impact for our nation. It's also critical how these interact with rural communities and how we can support the efforts of the DOE's MOU with USDA. The DOE-USDA MOU has resulted in a working effort in which DOE is incorporating opportunity zone economics into its analysis in order to reflect an increased economic bottom line returns on potential projects. This information is being combined with USDA programs eligibility areas to identify projects which meet both economic and pragmatic hurdles and offer a high probability for success. The project identified by DOE analysis will be provided to USDA in order to assist that organization to conduct stakeholder outreach and implement high impact projects in these areas and have a high probability of economic success. Additionally, DOE will use this information to project workforce needs associated with these projects in order to assist in workforce planning by local communities. Now, finally, project information in conjunction with workforce needs will be assessed in order to measure total economic development in associated opportunity zones. The DOE is also collaborating with the SBA in a similar manner to identify areas in which Programmatic eligibility overlaps with opportunity zones in order to assist SBA in efficiency allocation of their programmatic resources. In July, DOE released a report entitled The Appalachian Energy and Petrochemical Renaissance. The report's key findings is that the Appalachia's economic growth potential is extremely high, even in the face of COVID-19 pandemic economic setback, because of its abundant energy resources. Appalachia is also critical in advancing America's future prosperity and gender security, because it is now the nation's top producing region of natural gas and a major producer of coal and natural gas liquids. Even before COVID, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, and Kentucky were on track to enjoy a manufacturing revival. This is because of Appalachia's rich resources of low-cost natural gas, its strong, dedicated workforce, and the increased production of equipment directly related to energy production, and leading research and development in automation and advanced manufacturing. I am very pleased to participate in this webinar with my friend and colleague, Director David Byrd of MBDA. We recently signed an MOU with the Minority Business Development Agency, MBDA. This MOU will improve access to resources for industries within the energy sector, as well as build awareness, capacity, and create pathways to opportunities for our energy supply stakeholders, to include many of you who took the time from your business schedules to participate in this great summit. ED and MBDA will work collaboratively to open doors for minority business enterprises, MBEs. Together, we will leverage our agency resources and identify key strategic stakeholders that can assist with overcoming challenges that often hinder the success of MBE endeavors. MBDA and ED will also work together to improve access to training workshops, workforce opportunities, nationwide business centers, and other business-related opportunities that would benefit minority businesses and minority-serving institutions, MSI. I'd like to thank everyone that's listening here today and to tell you how good and how well we are proceeding forward with these initiatives. This is very important that this information gets out to the public, to our stakeholders, and allow for a more diverse and fruitful interaction from government, from the private sector, and to help promote a sustainable and viable energy economy for generations to come. It's my honor to speak here today, and I am always here in the Department of Energy, and the Office of Economic Impact and Diversity is always here to help. I thank you very much. It's been an honor.
Well, thank you very much, Director Campos, and we appreciate your public service. And ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to take what you've just heard, which for those of us who've been working in the government, like JR and even Emily, I'd like to kind of take a couple minutes to break that apart. Can you give us and share such a way that you have Emily from the legislative office? What could we share with them, with her specifically, that you believe that the senators on, of course, both sides of the aisle should know about minority businesses, the federal labs, the reason for the MOU, and what help we need moving forward to ensure that those goals and objectives are achieved in the spirit of challenges such as pandemics, et cetera?
Okay, thanks for that question. Let me try to answer it. So the opportunity zone of like the investment proposition, it's really the catalyst that can bring everything together. So if you have HBCUs and MSIs, which are MBEs, really, they are, that are already located inside of opportunity zones, then we just need to attract the investments. And so obviously these are large institutions. There's a whole lot of projects that could be done inside of these opportunity zones with HBCUs. I mean, DOE has a lot of different programs in terms of, energy, retrofitting the buildings. I mean, there's an opportunity to create these HBCUs into many smart cities or many smart campuses, which will also bring in a lot of other opportunities for perhaps electric vehicles. Keith, you and I, we've talked about the vertical farming and creating, a farming initiative to help alleviate food deserts and also to train entrepreneurs in this farming, the farming arena, which really is people kind of overlook that. So there's a lot of different opportunities, but again, the opportunity zone investment is the catalyst that can make all of this work, because you can attract investors and then they can get tax benefits, and it'll be a win-win for everyone. And so with
Emily,
the MOU, go ahead. With the MOU will help us, try to accomplish this. It's kind of like a connect the dots sort of scenario.
Okay, so Emily, having heard that and having now had a chance to take a look, at some of the bullets on the objectives of the MOU between the two agencies, what would you say now that we are where we are, in terms of what your recommendations would be, and where do you see the greatest challenges that HBCUs should try to get the help that is needed to attract investors and developers?
Definitely. So I think there's no question that 2020, and you could certainly argue that the first few weeks of 2021 have been, I think, some of the most trying times for our nation in decades. I think that's true from a global health perspective, from a domestic health perspective, from a global and domestic economic perspective, from a familial place, from a place of faith, where I think that, folks' faith in the government, in the economy, in pretty much everything has been absolutely tested in this past year. And so it's been difficult. And I think the last thing that we should do as policymakers is attempt to ignore that. What I think is so special about opportunity zones is that I think this incentive and that bill from its inception really represents, I think, the best of what Congress can do. And beyond that, I think it really captures what the majority of Americans would like to see for our country in the next, year, 5 years, 10 years from now, which is a strong and quick economic recovery that is also holistic and inclusive. We know that following 2008, it took us quite a bit of time to get back into a period of expansion. But even when we did, when we zoom in on our low-income communities, many of which are now opportunity zones, we noticed that even throughout the recovery period and even into the period of expansion, they continued to lose population. They continued to increase poverty rates. They continued to see unemployment skyrocket. They continued to see big industries leaving these towns in rural America. And they continued to see a lack of access to opportunity. What Opportunity Zones does in a nutshell is it provides us with a new tool that we already have on the books that can help us ensure that our economic recovery this time around will be holistic and will be inclusive by helping to level the playing field, such that it's giving areas that traditionally have had a more difficult time competing with wealthier areas for sources of private investment. It's giving them a new tool to help level the playing field and frankly make a lot of these projects that have been sitting in the rafters for a long time finally possible. Now, beyond that, for our HBCUs, Senator Scott's always going to continue to be a champion for our HBCUs. I think it's just really incredible when we're looking at just the leadership that we see, the outcomes that HBCUs have in STEM, just the amount of doctors and lawyers that they produce. It's honestly incredible. And I think that always needs to be highlighted whenever and wherever possible. I think that, again, just the natural geographic overlap that we have with our HBCUs makes that a fantastic avenue. Senator Scott passed legislation this past year to make funding for HBCUs expanded and permanent for the first time ever, which is huge, and that's fantastic. But there's always going to be a need for innovation and continued growth. And I think that opportunity zones can absolutely help make that a reality. And we're already starting to see that happen. It's creating a really collaborative environment that, again, I think with the obvious nexus between a lot of our HBCUs and STEM education, that's fantastic, especially when we're talking about the level of manufacturing we're seeing popping up in opportunity zones. The plethora of startups that are forming as qualified opportunity zone businesses. I think the overlap with STEM and with HBCUs is such a natural fit. That's not to say that I think it has to be pigeonholed into, you know, those two characteristics, but we're starting to see a lot of fantastic activity, and I'm hopeful that that will continue throughout 2021 and into the years ahead.
So where do you, what is keeping investors and developers hesitant in the areas of HBCUs, and what do you recommend HBCUs do 1, 2, 3 as we start out 2021 to engage in opportunity zones?
Sure. So I don't know that I would say that investors are hesitant, though I certainly cannot speak for the marketplace. I can certainly only speak for the perspective of my office and myself. But I would say that, you know, the most important thing for anybody and any entity looking to become involved in opportunity zones is noting that it is a very small and close-knit marketplace at this time. So doing your best to build out your contacts, reach out to connections. A lot of deals that we see happen in projects that materialize almost always include someone that is local to the area as one of the investors. And so that's fantastic. And that's great to know, because our HBCUs really do have such deep connections to their communities, as well as to folks that are from the community and perhaps moved on to different locations. So that's always important. The second piece, of course, is taking the time to really understand how the incentive works. While it is extremely flexible and the law itself is not extremely onerous, the final regulations are a bit of a bear, and I can acknowledge that because I think that there is beauty in that complexity. There's a lot of flexibility baked in, but really ensuring and working with your financial advisors and your tax attorneys to ensure that this is going to be working for you and is going to be the best choice for you is always paramount. And then I think the third thing is just ensuring that, you know, we love seeing those projects where we do see that really fantastic collaboration between private investment, the local community, local leaders, and really getting that buy-in and having a holistic long-term plan. Those have been some really, really incredible things for us to see. Of course, I can't give my own recommendations, but those are 3 just consistent themes that I think that we've seen a lot of.
JR, I'm come right to you, but I really think, Emily, you did such an excellent job to give visualization of what the challenges in the, let's call it the pipeline of realities for HBCUs. And when you talk about the requirement to know the legislation and understand it, the requirement to actually know how to engage in the tax program, the ability to have a real estate department. Remember, these are institutions. While they are businesses, JR, we totally agree, and have to operate like businesses. All of them don't, many of them do not, at this juncture, have real estate departments. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we've been challenged more with the HBCUs in terms of trying to just keep enrollment because it's, you know, and so we have these compounding realities. Putting that out there. I know you don't have a crystal ball, and I know you have such knowledge in this space. I wouldn't, you know, labor you to try to, you know, answer that. But I think, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, it's so important for you to lay your questions out in this spirit of this conversation so that we can get back to you. Because if you're here, your time for this 1 hour to learn about opportunity zones and how it could favorably impact the revitalization of both your university, your community, how it can create jobs for or grow a small business into a mid-size and a mid-size into a large business. This is the time, this is the place, this is the conversation. And so JR, from the Minority Business Development Agency standpoint, why don't you take what Emily has just said and tell us what you believe are challenges that we publicly together can speak about so that we can be about the business of addressing these challenges. Thank you so much.
And I apologize, Keith. I do have to hop off and run staff a committee thing for for my team. But thank you so much for having me all. Keith, please feel free to share my contact information with anyone who needs it. Please don't hesitate to reach out to our office if there's more information that anyone should need. Check out also, Senator Scott recently added an Opportunity Zones information portal to his website. So if you go to scott.senate.gov, you can quickly select Opportunity Zones, and there's a plethora of information there. And again, just don't hesitate to be a stranger. We're here to be a resource. And thank you so much again, Keith, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Listen, thank you. It's always a pleasure. And you know you'll be back at some juncture. Stay connected and thankful for your presence today. And it's really representative of who we are as a nation to on this Martin Luther King celebration as we prepare for the country, a new mind, a new opportunity moving ahead. Thank you so much, Emily. It's always
Thank you so much. Y'all have a great one.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Emily.
Why don't you take it from there?
All right. So let me just try to answer, make a few comments on what her comments were. First of all, in terms of the investment and incentive, I think, and as a person who actually, with my finance background, we researched a lot of the opportunity zones. We did, tours and everything. And so what I saw with the opportunity zone investments were, a lot of them were either startup real estate projects or things that hadn't been proven. So this is totally different. We've got an institution, a college, an educational institution. So I think in terms of the investment proposition, it's totally different than, a developer that wants to put up, a shopping center or something like that, or a mixed-use building. Not that that's not good in underserved markets, but you compare that versus an investment with an HBCU, with an MSI, something like that. It's of a total different magnitude. Secondly, the HBCUs or the colleges, they're institutions. They don't see themselves as businesses, but they are. They generate tuition and everything, and so we know that to sustain the enrollment and everything, a lot of these institutions are facing challenges too. So they need to create additional revenue streams to make sure that they're going to be around and everything. So there's opportunities all the way around. But, a lot of these colleges and HBCUs or whatever, they're sitting on land and real estate. If you look at just here in DC and Howard University, they have a lot of different dormitories. Some of them they sold, some of them they converted into condominiums, and just, so sometimes you're sitting on assets and you don't really realize how to monetize those assets. So I think with the HBCUs, they just need someone to kind of come in and with a out of the box, thought process and say, okay, well, how can we maximize this? How can we turn this around? How can we take advantage of some of these programs and drive some investment dollars to, sustain this institution and create a better one? So just some of my thoughts right there, but it takes a visionary, it takes a different approach, and what worked maybe 20, 30 years ago needs to be updated so we can move forward.
Yeah, great way to segue into. Thank you so much, JR. We are excited about our emerging partnership with Alabama A&M and look forward to making a more formal announcement about our Black History Month event, where we know that access to capital is the number one alongside of number two, which is having the capacity and infrastructure. But we want to solve that problem. And we look forward to having what works for HBCUs to access capital in the month of February, where we believe Black History is every day in honor of STEM diversity. And so, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are here in our audience, we thank you so much. You've heard it here first. And JR, I am endearing and fully appreciative of the agency and people like yourself who have the financial background, who know how to structure deal flow, who know how to give confidence to those who don't have necessarily the generational or, experiential professional side. Let's face it, faculty are educators. They educate our students. They prepare our students for the 21st century workforce. But it sounds like we are moving into this environment of being comfortable as a university to become a laboratory of learning. And so I like to, wind us down by encouraging, again, the chat box use for our audience for any questions or thoughts that they have, because you are part of our story and conversation that we're building over, again, the next 5 years. But I will tell you that it was in a study that we have at National Science Foundation study that showed from 1960 to 2012, the significant disparities between the number of patents on traditionally TWIs and HBCUs. So the period of from 1960 to 2012, there is only about 80 patents on HBCU campuses compared to that same period of time of patents in the numbers ranging from 1,500 to 3,500. Now, JR, you can truly appreciate and echo what happens with patents is the opportunity for commercialization of those patents and marketing the commercialization for revenue. So what we're really talking about is helping to transform, using innovation to transform what works in HBCUs, particularly located in opportunity zones. Did you want to have commentary on that from your experience at MBDA and at SBA?
Yeah, sure. Another, hidden gem in these HBCUs are the labs. And like you said, the labs are basically, folks that have good ideas that are brought, and they're just waiting to be, brought to market to be commercialized. They're in different stages, and you can actually go to some of these labs and, oh wow, and find out some of the latest, greatest things. But the whole thing, the commercialization, getting it to market, there's a process, and of course financing comes in with that, because a lot of these things haven't been proven. But again, if you have the vision, you have a partner, and then there's different funding. I mean, we talked about STEM, we talked about all different things. There's grants and things like that to help propel those forward. So a lot of people don't realize the labs, that there's, basically off the shelf products or things that you could actually go in and, put some money behind it if you believe in the project and bring it to commercialization. So just a lot of opportunities within these schools, HBCUs, and in terms of innovation. So it's all about, just finding the opportunities and then, broadcasting it out to the mainstream, because a lot of people just don't know. So advocacy, raising the level of awareness, especially now in the pandemic. Everyone is looking for different ways to either start a business or, just keep going. And that's the function of the pandemic and the change in the economy. We're going towards service-based and everything like that. So, folks need to be creative. You got to put your thinking caps on.
Well, JR, thank you for that. Thank you for that feedback. And just wanted to let everyone know, if you have any questions, you can submit them and we'll respond. In addition, the website is www.IAEOZsummit.com. And this recorded webinar will be available by Monday. And we also would like for you to just check out the website, because you can see other videos from the 2020 summit, which was really exciting. So again, we would like to thank you for attending. JR, we thank you. We thank Emily, and Keith had to step out for a second, but all information will be available via the website, and you will receive a survey by Monday. in reference to your attendance. Once again, thank you for attending and have a great day.
Thank you.